By the late 90s, Honda needed a successor to the XR650R, the off-road standard since 1985. In 2000, the answer arrived. XR650R, a ground-up redesign with new frame, new engine, and a singular mission. Out in the Southwest and down in Baja, riders didn't call it by its brochure name. They called it the Big Red Pig. Big, because it tipped the scales around 277 pounds dry. Red, for Honda's racing crimson. Pig, because it felt heavy and mean at a standstill, then unstoppable once it charged. On American forums, the shorthand stuck. BRP. Honda's philosophy was blunt. Build the most powerful, most durable dirt bike of its day. Something that could devour desert miles at race pace. This wasn't a beginner's trail toy. It was for riders who wanted a real animal under them. Quick clarity before we go deeper. XR650R is liquid-cooled and bred for race use. XR650L is air-cooled, electric start, and street legal. Two very different tools for two different jobs. It wasn't built for trails. It was built to win deserts. The XR650R wasn't just a bigger version of the old 600. It was a complete reinvention. Under that red skin lived a brand new heart. A 649 cubic centimeter SOHC single with Honda's RFVC 4-valve head, liquid cooling, and a dry sump oil system that stored its lifeblood inside the frame for better heat control. It made about 61 horsepower at 6,750 RPM and 47 pound-feet of torque at 5,500, fed by a Keihin 40mm piston valve carb and shifted through a close ratio 5-speed gearbox. No button here. Kickstart only, the way real desert bikes used to be. Compared to the XR600R's air-cooled 591 cubic centimeter engine with roughly 45 horsepower, the new R packed over 35% more power, ran cooler, and delivered a much smoother hit across the rev range. It wasn't delicate, though. Honda overbuilt everything. Forged piston, massive cam, bulletproof crank, and simple gear-driven balancer. Because Baja doesn't forgive weak parts. This engine defined Honda's philosophy. Power without fragility. It was designed to run wide open for hours, in heat that would melt lesser bikes. Crack the throttle, and it answers instantly with that signature deep, thumping growl, a sound every desert rider knows. The torque rolls in from idle, smooth but relentless, pushing you forward with that quiet confidence that says, "This thing will never quit before you do." Power alone doesn't win Baja. You need a chassis that can take punishment at full throttle, hour after hour. For the XR650R, Honda tore up the old blueprint and started fresh. Out went the steel cradle of the XR600R. In came an all-new box-section aluminum frame, lighter, stiffer, and more precise than anything Honda had ever put on an XR. It cut weight, sharpened response, and gave riders a sense of control that simply didn't exist before. Suspension followed the same philosophy. Up front, 46mm Kayaba inverted forks delivered 11.2 inches of travel, while the rear ProLink setup provided 12.1 inches, letting the bike skim across whoops and rocks without flinching. The 240mm discs, front and rear, finally gave braking power to match its speed. Progressive, predictable, and easy to modulate, even in deep sand. Dimensions told the rest of the story. A 58.3-inch wheelbase, 36.8-inch seat height, and 12 inches of ground clearance, all wrapped around a 277-pound dry weight and a 2.6-gallon fuel tank. The result was a machine that felt heavy to push, but light once it moved, balanced, confident, and unshakably stable at desert pace. For Honda's XR line, this aluminum frame wasn't just an upgrade. It was a revolution, a move from rugged to refined, from tough to truly fast. Starting the XR650R is a ritual. There's no electric button, only a long kick lever and your own technique. You learn to find top dead center, ease the piston just past it, then drop your full weight. When it fires, it doesn't bark, it thumps. A deep, steady rhythm that shakes through your boots and settles into that unmistakable big single heartbeat. Twist the throttle, and the torque hits low and thick, climbing hills like they aren't even there. The power builds from the mid-range with a raw, mechanical honesty. No electronic filters, no hesitation. Out on the open flat, it holds 60 to 70 miles per hour with calm precision, more planted and predictable than the old XR650R ever was. In deep sand or loose gravel, the chassis just digs in, tracking straight while everything else kicks sideways. On tight trails, it feels like wrestling a bull, heavy, stubborn, demanding respect. But give it room to run, and it transforms. The weight disappears, replaced by a rush of speed that feels almost endless. It's a bike that doesn't forgive mistakes, but it rewards courage every time you dare to twist harder. There's nothing polished or polite about it, just pure, unfiltered adrenaline wrapped in Honda red. From the start, the XR650R had one mission: win Baja. Not just once, but again and again, across hundreds of miles of brutal desert that chew up lesser machines. Honda's engineers built it around that goal, and in the hands of men like Johnny Campbell and the Honda HRC team, it delivered beyond anyone's imagination. Between 1997 and 2007, Campbell and Honda claimed 11 straight victories at the Baja 1000, setting records that still stand. Year after year, red dust and halogen light filled the night as the big thumper roared across Mexico's desert plains. The sight became iconic, a crimson blur slicing through moonlit dunes, twin headlights glowing against the dark, chasing a horizon that never ends. The Baja-prepped XR650R was a beast of its own. It wore a larger fuel tank, dual lights, heavy-duty suspension, and taller gearing for endless stretches of wide-open throttle. Mechanics called it bulletproof, racers called it the King, and fans simply called it unstoppable. Its domination turned the XR650R from a motorcycle into a myth, a symbol of endurance, grit, and the idea that speed isn't about horsepower but about heart. Long after the last checkered flag dropped, the legend stayed written in the dust. Baja didn't make the XR famous. The XR made Baja legendary. For all its brute strength, the XR650R didn't roll out of the crate at full roar. Thanks to strict EPA regulations, every US model came corked up, a big motor breathing through a straw. Honda installed intake and exhaust restrictors, a tiny main jet, and conservative ignition timing to meet emissions standards. The result? It sounded tough, but felt like it was holding its breath. Then riders discovered the cure. They called it uncorking. Strip out the restrictors, rejet the carb with the right needle and main jet, open up the intake, swap the muffler for a free-flowing FMF big gun or full HRC exhaust kit. In a few hours of garage work, the big red pig came alive. The difference was night and day. Rear wheel power jumped to around 50 to 52 horsepower. Throttle response became razor sharp, and the engine ran cooler thanks to better airflow. The heavy thump turned into a crisp, explosive roar that felt ready to chase the horizon. Riders kept going. Larger tanks, 3.2 to 6.3 gallons, for long runs. Radiator guards and gearing swaps, 1545 for high speed, 1448 for tight trails. But there was a balance. Done right, the bike ran cooler and lasted longer. Done wrong, it overheated fast. As one desert racer said with a grin, stock made noise, uncorked made history. Once freed, the BRP finally breathed the way it was born to, wide open, under the endless sky. For all its desert glory, the XR650R was no flawless hero. It was a purpose-built brute, and it never pretended to be anything else. Its strengths were obvious the moment you rode it. The torque was immense, pulling hard from idle and making rough terrain feel almost easy. It was incredibly durable, the engine shrugging off heat and abuse that would cook lesser bikes. The aluminum frame kept it rigid and light in motion, and its mechanical simplicity meant any competent rider could service it with hand tools. In harsh, remote conditions, few machines were more trustworthy, but it had its quirks. The kickstart-only setup could punish tired riders, especially after a fall. The 2.6-gallon tank limited long adventures, and its height and weight made slow-speed riding a handful. It also wasn't street legal in the US, unless modified with an approved lighting kit. Still, every flaw came with character. It's not perfect, but it's honest, like every good machine should be. For years, riders mixed them up. The XR650R and XR650L. On paper, they share a number. In reality, they share almost nothing. The XR650R was a pure racer, liquid-cooled, aluminum frame, kickstart only, built for speed and punishment, never street legal from the factory in the US. A few lucky owners in places like Nevada or Arizona managed to plate theirs with dual sport kits, but that was the exception. The XR650L, on the other hand, was a different animal. Air-cooled, steel-framed, electric start, heavier, tamer, and fully street legal in all 50 states. Many still assume the R replaced the L, but they're two different philosophies, one for highways and commutes, the other for open deserts and endless dunes. The L commutes, the R conquers. Production of the XR650R ended in 2007, closing an 8-year reign that defined the big single era. Today, clean examples are getting rare, especially the 2006 to 2007 models, the final and most refined builds. Bikes that have been uncorked properly or set up in full Baja trim still command serious money. In the US, prices in 2024 hover around $5,000 to $8,000 for well-kept machines, with pristine or race-prepped examples easily topping $10,000. But its value goes beyond money. The XR650R has become the last true big thumper icon, a machine that represents mechanical honesty and raw strength. Forums, Facebook groups, and ride maps dedicated to the BRP still thrive, proof that this red beast never really faded. It just moved into legend. In the end, the XR650R stands for more than power or performance. It represents a moment in time, the last big single that still felt alive. It was born before emissions laws and electronic controls tamed every motorcycle, back when engineers were free to chase strength, sound, and soul instead of software. From the roar of its piston to the modern silence of electric CRFs, you can feel how far we've drifted from that raw mechanical heartbeat. The XR's DNA still runs through machines like the CRF450X and CRF450L, but none of them truly replaced it. They may be faster, cleaner, more civilized, but that primal connection, that pulse through the frame, belongs only to the pig. It kicked hard, rode harder, and earned its name, the Big Red Pig. Have you ever kicked a BRP to life? Like if you believe torque is a love language. Subscribe. Next time we'll chase the machines that dared to follow the pig.